What is up, everyone? It is Monday. It's the weekend of Rewind. It is Word. And the first thing I need to do is apologize. And no, not forgetting my Newcastle-Liverpool prediction correct, because I knew it. I knew it would end in a draw, even though I said 2-2 and it was 1-1. No, I need to apologize because I promised hashtag TAS versus Gorilla and Cutthroat FIFA was going to go down this weekend, and I deleted the file with all the audio on it by accident, which now makes me feel like we should do all the voices ourselves, Mike K. So push me off to the side of the screen and then show yourself and then agree with me, because I think that video would be funny as f***.
I agree.
Also, do you want to know what else is funny? The Seattle Sounders losing to the Philadelphia Union 2-0. After I crushed the Union on Friday, you guys remember that? Because they're one of the best teams in MLS at losing games. So the Sounders are making me look like a goddamn idiot here. Isn't that hilarious? But do you know what doesn't make me look like an idiot? Me saying in my Premier League preview that both Manchester clubs were going to be the top two teams in England this season, and it showed again this past weekend after Kevin De Bruyne's beautiful finish with his weak foot. That is, if you consider him having a weak foot, which I don't, but apparently FIFA 18 does. They gave him 4 stars instead of 5, which helps City beat the defending champions Chelsea at Stamford Bridge 1-0, and after Manchester United absolutely demolished a team Crystal Palace that is definitely worse than the Philadelphia Union and potentially the Seattle Sounders in this whole conversation. And don't at me in the comments. Crystal Palace would suck in MLS too. So it's crystal clear that these two clubs from Manchester are gonna be neck and neck all year. And save it, Tottenham fans. I don't care what argument you're gonna come at me with. If you couldn't win the league the season that Leicester won it, then you're definitely not going to win it now when both Manchester clubs aren't f***ing around anymore. However, if you beat United at Old Trafford on October 28th, then I promise I'll start calling you the favorites behind Manchester City. And Barcelona this season too, if Tottenham played in La Liga, but they don't, thankfully, because I think they would struggle in Spain because English people only seem to go to Spain to vacation and do nothing, which is kind of how I remember Gary Neville's time in Spain, and David Moyes and Tony Adams. And how's that segue into Spain? But keeping it in this country, let's talk a little Leo Messi. Messi, because he scored 2 more goals this weekend to push his league lead to 11, which is 5 more than the next closest competitor and 9 more than anyone on Real Madrid, since Los Blancos are spreading the goals around, which helps keep Barca on top of the table with 5 points more than the closest competitor and 7 points more than Real Madrid. So I'm eager to see how they do when they face Atletico Madrid after the international break, because Barcelona is notorious for being terrible after international breaks. And talking about another club who is surprisingly alone at the top of the table, and I only say surprisingly when referencing Barcelona because I truly thought they would struggle post-selling Neymar and post-Dembele getting hurt, and because I thought Madrid would be cruising at the top, but they aren't. So that's why I said surprisingly. Though let's be honest, I bet you guys are a little surprised too, right? Be honest with yourselves. Look at yourself in the mirror right now and say, Jimmy is right. And then I would pop out of the shower behind you and say, I know. And why am I fully clothed actually in the shower? I mean, which is cool because it would be weird to be in your dream without any clothes on? And what the hell actually is going on here? What kind of tangent are we going on? Anyway, another 2 clubs that I know you're surprised are currently at the top of the table are Napoli, who maintain their status as the highest scoring club in Europe by scoring another 3 goals this weekend. It just feels way too easy for them, which helped them establish a 2-point lead at the top of the league after Atalanta became the first team in Serie A to take points off of Juventus this season after being down 2-0. Also, Paulo Dybala had his penalty saved at the end of this game, which kept the scoreline 2-2. So maybe this signals that Dybala's good run of form is over, because Higuain scored as well. So maybe there's a little shift in power, you know? Maybe not. What the hell actually is going on here? Also, Roma beat AC Milan 2-0, just like I predicted they would. In fact, I wonder how many of my predictions I got right from Friday. Probably all of them, like I always do. Well, Edin Dzeko scored his 7th goal of the season to lead the visitors to their 3rd straight win over Milan in the San Siro to jump into 5th, while the club that Milan share a city with, Inter Milan, went level on points with Juve in the table after a solid 2-1 road win versus Benevento, while Lazio put 6 past Sassuolo in their 3-5-1-1 formation, which is a crazy-ass formation, right? It is, isn't it? To remain 3 points behind Juve and Inter. I meant Juve and Napoli. I suck at this. What the hell actually is going on here? And then the other club that is surprisingly on top of the table in their respective league is Borussia Dortmund, who've taken a 5-point lead over the team that we all expect to be on top, Bayern Munich, with their big 2-1 win on the road over Augsburg, while Super Bayern made their own history in the Bundesliga by giving up a 2-0 lead in back-to-back games for the first time ever. However, what made this a little different is that this game was after some of the players got Carlo Ancelotti fired, so I wonder who, after they blew this lead, they're gonna blame this time. And it can't be the backup goalkeeper because he wasn't at fault on either goal and he actually had a terrific save in the first half. So, who are you pointing the finger at this time, fellas? And then in this weekend, Neymar, the only finger pointing happening was Neymar pointing at Cavani after Neymar successfully converted a penalty and then showed his appreciation to Cavani for letting him take the penalty itself, which was very sweet. I just feel like you probably could have used a fist bump and a high five and a butt tap as well. And PSG's massive 6-2 win over third place Bordeaux, which was such a one-sided result with Neymar getting 2 goals and an assist, that it's hard to see anyone getting close to PSG this season. And in fact, it makes me wonder if PSG will end up being the best French club of all time, which means it's time for me to give 30 seconds to the only French person I know, Sofiane Sebai, to answer this potentially unanswerable question.
Thanks, Jimmy, and this is why I think PSG will be the best French team of all time. Since Qatar took over the club in 2011, they crushed everything on their way, winning a 16th trophy on the national scene. Unfortunately, the path has been a little harder in Europe, as we all remember the slap received in Barcelona last season. In consequence, the team manager broke the bank and hired the Brazilian star Neymar and the French golden boy Mbappe on a break record deal. Hey Jimmy, I only got 30 seconds, so I guess we'll sit them for the final in Kiev. Back to you.
Maybe I needed to give you longer than 30 seconds to explain things, because I think PSG is going to need some luck with the draw to be in the Champions League final in Kiev next May. Maybe some warm balls luck. Also, Sophie, the background music at your place is pretty great. Also, ×2, the top 4 teams in Portugal were squaring off this past weekend. You had second place Sporting Clube de Portugal hosting first place Porto, and they drew 0-0, which is boring. And then third place Benfica, who had a big chance to gain points than the 2 teams above them, drew with fourth place Marítimo 1-1. Boring. So let's give it up to fifth place Braga, who brought the heat and beat Estoril 6-0, because that's what I'm talking about. A little what beatdown. And I also want to talk about Club America's biggest rival in Mexico, Chivas Guadalajara, because after America beat Toluca on the road 2-1 this weekend to move up to second in the table with 6 games left to go before the playoffs start, I checked to see where last season's champions were located, and yes, it's true, Chivas won the league last season, and they're in 16th with 1 win in 11 games, which deserves, and you guys know what's coming, a no mommy's way! What is going on, Chivas fans? Please explain it to me in the comments, because how does a club suffer that big of a drop a few months after they win the league? I just don't get it. And finally, before I get into who is currently on top of the standings in the Warm Ballers Fantasy League, I want to give a shout out to Toronto FC, who secured the Supporters Shield as the team who, after 34 games in the regular season, will finish with the best record after their 4-2 dismantling of the New York Red Bulls this weekend, which means with their capture of this trophy, coupled with them winning the cup competition in Canada, they have a chance to become the first treble winner in MLS history if they can win MLS Cup 2. So we'll see if they can pull it off, especially after they lost in last year's final in penalties, which must still sting. And I guess that's where they get their motivation from. They wanted to get back there and exercise those demons. I mean, they're going to host the game again because they have the best record. That's one of the benefits of getting the Supporters Shield, that if you make it to the final, you get to host the game. It's pretty cool, right? And now for the Warm Ballers Fantasy League, I've dropped to 995th because I forgot to set my lineup again because I clearly don't want to win my own pickup game, but Jonathan Wright does. The man at the top created even more space between him and Roberto Romero Leon and Zach Lyons, who are tied for second. So will anyone catch him? Probably not, is my guess, if he keeps paying attention every week. If he tries to replicate what I'm doing, it's gonna be a nice slide into despair and sadness. Am I worth anything anymore? I'm 995th in the fantasy Premier League with all the other Warm Ballers. Am I even warm anymore? I'm cold. Also, the winner for the right prediction, and there were a lot of you again this week. Nice job for believing that my Newcastle could get a result, or maybe you just believe that Liverpool would somehow f it up again, which they did in some ways. They just can't finish and they can't defend either. So I'm gonna go with the commenter who got it right, and who got it right first. And his name is Toshin Paluchin. So Toshin, check your messages on YouTube. I'll drop you a note there. Also, you only get one guess for your predictions, you suckers, not 20 like I see some of you doing. Nice try. Can't pull a fast one on this guy. Also, a new episode of Career Mode drops tomorrow. So yes, you're welcome. And I'll see you later.